Alright, there's my mic. Guess I'm throwing up the background as well, because I don't have anything to put there, just off the top of my head. This'll do okay. I really gotta, uh, resituate my stream here for this upcoming year, but, anyways. We've got some great projects to attend to. Both old and new speedruns and their categories, and I've just wanted to kind of cover everything I've done thus far, and after that, hopefully make my presentation and everything better, because I feel like I'm pretty good at describing things, but maximizing the visual utilities of my stream, as you can obviously tell, not the utmost. Anyways, so gonna be showing the Looney Tunes back in action speedrun that I've been putting together over the last several months. So there is a little bit of like preamble, I guess, here, where the the video's just starting up and everything. I couldn't get the splits to capture right in this, speaking of which, but anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. There's gonna be some slight visual, how we shall say, compensations, but nonetheless, there is full, uninterrupted footage here that we can work with. So anyways, this is Looney Tunes back in action. Kind of obscure game, movie tie-in sort of thing. Based on the sort of like, I don't know if it was an anniversary thing or what, but it was like a celebration of all things Looney Tunes. In like the early 2000s, and this game just kind of takes the locations from that, and they made a platformer out of it that sort of relies on this main mechanic of switching between Bugs and Daffy as your playable characters, and they have different movesets and traits that the game calls for at different times. Namely, Bugs Bunny has a double jump, is able to rent costumes for specific missions and dig underground, whereas Daffy can flutter, allowing him to go longer distances rather than Bugs Bunny traveling higher distances. And he also has a few costume rental things, but and he can swim as opposed to digging. However, due to some of the tech in the game, as you will see, some of those things can be ignored. There is a lot to cover in terms of like, because just with how the structure of the game is, there will be a lot of things happening at once. The reason being for that is that there's a few specific quota that you need to fill to complete the game, at least as far as we know so far. The game revolves around these missions, like I said, that you go to, and you get rewarded monkeys, which effectively act the same as power stars in any of the Mario games. Now, oddly enough, there's only one single check or door, if you will, for how many monkeys you have, and it's at the very end of the game. Now, with all of the knowledge that we have so far, there isn't really any found way to skip that door, unfortunately. But anyone that's familiar with the previous record to this will see that there's still plenty of massive improvements to be made with the other tech in play. So besides needing 35 monkeys You also need to pay for taxi fares, or fees. I guess either works. In order to travel, because you're chasing a specific monkey that stole the blue monkey diamond. The plot's really strange and all over the place in this game, but you know, you can't ask terribly much. Like, it's wacky adventures. You can't go terribly wrong with it. Excuse me. So, let's see, as far as the money goes, like, I believe you need something like 19,000 just to get around to the various worlds. I mean, you go to, like, Paris and Africa and Area 52, like, there's a lot of, Las Vegas. You got a lot of ground to cover. So you have to at least minimally get that, and then there's also the fact that the monkeys themselves are distributed in a rather conflicting but fascinating way that makes routing the game really difficult and intriguing, even though there's a lot of you know, movement capabilities that allow you to just sort of surpass all sorts of boundaries. Because of that singular check for the monkey, 35 monkey total, the game ends up being revolved around routing mainly for which monkeys would be fastest. And the forms in which those monkeys take, you can sort of overlap things you were doing, you know, be like multitasking. And you try to maximize essentially how much money and monkeys you're getting or working towards at the same time. Not sure how much there is to go here. Anyway, main sort of sets of monkeys. So there's several, like, story-based monkeys, or I just call them that because they're monkeys that are absolutely required to beat the game. Because they progress the story. Like, typically they're ones that, like, allow you to access the next map area so that you have that, you know, taxi fee, you know where to go next, and so the worlds only unlock one at a time as well, and only after completing certain missions. So again, another unfortunate and severe restriction. And then the other one I was going to mention is that the pool of monkeys that you have to collect is rather small. So altogether, there are 45 monkeys in the game, but one of those is from the final boss, which is locked behind the door. So you have 44. Keep in mind, you need a total of 35. So your options are pretty limited already. But then you take that 44 or whatever, and you add the fact that like 12 of them are required or something. I don't know if that about 12. I don't know, but some of them are required, and then there's other ones that are just so obviously fast that you need to get them. For example, one of the monkey types is the Tweety Bird saving mission. So in each world, there's 3 locations in which Sylvester tries to, you know, catch and eat Tweety Bird. But if you save him, then Granny will come and give you a monkey for your troubles. And then additionally, there are several different side collectibles. There's a bird seed, and there's a statue, Michigan frog statue. And we'll get into the limitations of those as things go along. And then, of course, there's also a few money monkeys that you can get as well. But you have to get those on top of your taxi fares. So, you know, as the run progresses, I'll be able to kind of more showcase the restrictions in layering that goes on, like the pros and cons of each of those collectibles. Anyway, starting off, we're gonna get into our basic movement really quickly here. Simply can press start after the cutscenes. This was, since it was early 2000s and whatever, this is a PS2 era game. Playing on the GameCube, mainly because the loading times are slightly better, and you can skip a few cutscenes that you can't on PS2. So one of the other main tricks in this game, there's several monkey chasing missions. Those tend to be the story missions as well. They're about as wide as your character's body. So if you, like, block them with about half of your body width or more, then they won't be able to pass you. So you have to memorize their locations and stand in the way. It's only like half a body, or I guess one body length of a, you know, a window to do that. So as you may have noticed, well, for one, these cars are always on the same cycle, so you can kind of just maneuver around them mindfully. And real quick trick here, jumping on this, where bouncing interrupts your current animation, and typically you have to hold the hula thing to get him stunned. But you can cancel out of the hula dance and still have him stunned, basically. So throughout this, you may be noticing a lot of rolling and also single jumping. Those are going to be the main forms of movement. Rolling, you can do after just getting a little bit of your running speed, and you basically have full control over the direction. Jumping off of little props like that to get to things much quicker and early is also going to be of note. So here we've got to destroy 10 Daffy Duck wanted posters in order to prevent him from being caught by the cops, I guess. They definitely wouldn't still be looking for him after that. Of course, double jumping is used when necessary because certain, you know, gaps can't be cleared without it. And then single jumping just like is kind of like a burst movement option that has less control, but you can still kind of curve yourself a fair bit and you can chain them together. As you can see, there's like a lot of different things being picked up at the same time. Like there was a bird seed, there was some money, there was Sylvester. So a lot of the routing comes with streamlining these several different types of monkeys that I had mentioned earlier. The other thing about rolling is that it puts out a constant hitbox, so it's pretty fucking powerful, because you can just break boxes, destroy enemies, stuff like that. As far as the money itself, there's 3 different denominations, these nickels, and then earlier there were the stacks of bills and the gold bars. Each nickel gives 5, a stack of bills gives 50, and a gold bar gives 100. So, stacks of bills are the most plentiful and easy to get, and like there's more than twice as many of them as gold bars, so like they kind of make up the crux of the routing, but there's still a handful of gold bars that we will pick up along the way. Nickels also contribute, but we're not going to be going out of our way for them exactly. So anyways, now this is the first level where we have both Bugs and Daffy unlocked.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So from here on forth, we'll be able to use them in this mailbox system in order to kind of more effectively cover ground and backtrack, because certain characters can only access certain things, as you will see in a second here. So these checkpoints not only act as a place to spawn when you die, but you can also just like warp the other character there by striking them. And, you know, that works both ways. So here I was able to, you know, move Daffy over there for convenience for what is kind of the first and centralizing skip that I didn't necessarily find it, but making it consistent and adding it to runs. So this tower actually inclines slightly all the way up in like a upside down cone fashion. And the glitch you saw there was something called Daffy boosting, which essentially requires that after using Daffy's air attack, because he's not put into any sort of weird stun animation or anything, it actually treats him as grounded. And the other oddity to it is that if you interrupt his jump, he gets sent higher, like practically the height of Bugs' double jump. But you have to be hitting a wall, otherwise the, like, putting away the pan never happens. What's crazy about this is that, you know, in typical licensed game fashion, the simplest way to block players off is just invisible walls, but this works on invisible walls. So you can effectively climb, like, infinitely up a lot of different things. Here we're just hanging along this ledge, doing a curving out and curving back towards the building here. And doing some just tight little platforming to get up to these switches. Now, typically this room is rather useless, and really it would be better to avoid it in most scenarios. But the reasoning for doing this is that, well, one, there's a chunk of money in here that's kind of helpful. We need 2,000 to access the next world, and we're pretty slim on money pickups in this first world. But there's also those Michigan frogs. So with those, you collect 20 of them, and it just automatically gives you a monkey. With no strings attached. However, the other collectibles, as you will shortly see, do have strings attached. Or at least I will shortly explain. And then here, after I collect this bird seed over here in this box, I'll be replicating the same trick I was doing earlier, which is called a gate skip, or even a clip, one could argue. But essentially, they did some weird choices when programming this game, and certain gates and loading zones and whatever are just open whenever the level is first loaded. And every time you switch characters, if you're in a different room than the other one, the other room is forced to load again. So by having Daffy in that little alcove, I can switch back to Bugs and, you know, just walk through. So Sylvester here, you have to... What's troublesome about Sylvester monkeys is that, well, there's that cutscene, sure, but besides that... Oh, real quick, you can bounce on certain objects. I didn't realize there was a controlled way to do this until, like, a few runs before this one, so you'll see me experimenting and doing some kind of inoptimal things there. But by holding A, it kinda, like, they're already predetermined and forced angles, but you will, like, automatically target other things near you, so that's faster for bugs there. Doesn't really have much other use in the rest of the run. This is supposed to be a Bugs Bunny only area, but because of Daffy boosting, we can get up. Oh, the other thing about Daffy boosting is that it typically locks your... You're not able to, alter your angle after you've used the pan. So typically, it's best for just going straight up walls, curved walls, like the one on the water tower that I climbed, that I said was inclined. Typically, those aren't, easy or recommended to travel. I had to do a odd little setup to get along the seam of sorts and hold against the thing so that I was, like, continually pressing up against the wall. Alright, so the other collectibles. Right now you're seeing the downside of the bird seed. So for them, there's only 7 in each level. Yes, which is a fair bit less, clearly, than 20 Michigan Frogs. But you have to do this auto-scroller level. There isn't really any way to speed it up or slow it down besides avoid getting hit, like I apparently did there. You just evade cars and you slowly build up speed for 12 hours and eventually win. I mean, luckily, it's still a fairly fast monkey. I think we do 3 or 4 different ones, 4 actually, in this route, because there's still only mild detours in the route. And then the mission itself is only like 1:30 or 2 minutes or something, and a good monkey is about like 2.5 minutes, or maybe 3. I forget exactly, but anyways, there's that. And then the issue with the Sylvester ones is that even though there's 3 locations, you have to collect them in a specific sequence. You can't collect them out of order. And then a shared problem with both the Sylvester monkeys and the birdseed is that for whatever reason, if you choose to go for those monkeys, you have to collect all of them within the same visit of the world. And what I mean by that is, let's say I pick up this birdseed by Daffy boosting, like I did there, to avoid a long-winded bit of jumping up construction bars and whatever. See, using bugs there with the warp system. Similar thing there. If I went to the map screen or main menu to, like, you know, do a menu warp, which basically, when you unlock a mission, if you just warp into that mission, you know, it may have a different placement than if you were to just, you know, be somewhere else in the level and have walked there. So that can be advantageous at times, but you are limited from doing that in a bunch of scenarios simply because it's better to just keep the collectibles. Luckily, the birdseeds and Sylvesters especially just kind of progress naturally throughout the level, so we can get them along the way. There you saw me Daffy boost up to the top ring of the room, do a ring around. I was able to get some money while getting a trophy and a Sylvester location. So you can already see how several things are being worked towards at the same time. Of course, there's no reason to get a Tweety or a statue unless you're going to get them all, so they all have to be pretty close. So similar scenario to the monkey block from earlier here, standing kind of to the left of that little tile there will allow you to go. There was a little glitch of, by rolling, you can kind of cancel other animations because it just lasts as long as you wish. So normally you'd have to spin in place and not be able to act out of that, but yeah, rolling has a lot of utility and it's just jank. So now that we got the paintings, fulfilled the quota, the monkey spawns. That's the other issue, is that monkeys, like, the game's just made to be, it seems very open world, but when it comes to speedrunning, it becomes, or at least as far as, like, just with the, between each mission, it's fairly linear. Like, you can go out of bounds and access, like, all of the rest of the level without having completed the first mission. But because completing missions alters the state of the level and adds in different things that, you know, are requirements for the subsequent missions, you can't really go and complete those other missions without doing the first one. So again, required monkeys, in order to get other... You can't really pick and choose the monkeys as freely as one might like. As it stands, this route only has like one monkey that I think may be able to be swapped in. Again, you only really have room for like 3 monkeys maybe you can swap around based on your skill level. Typically, in all the runs previously, you would complete the worlds 1-3 and 1-4 because it seemed as though they were necessary, both because they gave you monkeys and in order to get the other collectibles, because you wouldn't get to that cloud area until much later. But by that skip, you can avoid that. Climbing some walls there, using Daffy boosting, using the warp things there to get some money and some quick little statues as well. Alright, so this mission, Elmer Fudd is hunting in the Louvre. Very... Elmer's inclusion in this game is just phenomenal. They really did, capture the mood and insanity of some of the things. So anyways, Elmer's kinda slow, just swing around and grab some collectibles along the way and just stand in front of these signs to bait him, and ducking will avoid the shots, but force him to also shoot sooner, because you'll be you know, being, as opposed to having to wait for him to get closer to the sign, is what I'm trying to say.
William Tell you ain't. Look, celebrity. Take that.
A couple other little movement-based things, since this next section is kind of just like maximizing your little move set anyways. So Bugs also has his own form of the, like, attack cancel that allows Daffy boosting to exist, but it actually sends him forward instead. Again, locking your angle. You can't act out of it, so there isn't any, like, Bugs boosting of any sort. And it's a lot more mild, I suppose, of a of a boost, because you already have the double jump, you can space those out.
Every little bit helps.
So here, just kind of like moving around using mainly single jumps, peppering in slight rolls when possible. There's tons and tons of just little bits of collision and stuff that you can bonk on. The game's very odd about that. You can, like, cancel your bonk and then just be, like, walking around while in the dizzy state. But it's incredibly hard to time and do, like, consistently with literally every instance where it's possible. So, like, there where I was around the rail, you saw me stop and walk for a bit, both because I was worried about, bonking, and because with, walking, you're able to adjust your angle very, fluidly, and without as much speed, so you don't have to worry about that. There I just kind of failed to press the A button quickly, I don't know.
Another 5 cents.
There is definitely some time loss in this run. There's a lot of things that admittedly make the game kind of daunting to pick up. The routing and game knowledge is already so much. Like, people look at the game and they want it to just be a simple platformer with a bunch of jank in it. But because of these limitations that I've kept describing, the routing kinda ends up being more akin to an RPG speedrun, because there's a lot of worry about, like, getting certain pickups and resource management, you know, like with your money and everything, as opposed to just doing all the craziest, skips and getting to the ends of levels early. That is definitely part of it. It's this weird hybrid, though, so, yeah. Anyways, attempted the monkey block there, failed it, but was quickly able to catch up by doing one of those attack cancels with the jump, because that puts out a hitbox quicker than a stationary swing, because there's like a wind-up to it. And here is a great example of demonstrating the RNG elements to this game. A bunch of the missions have some mini-games thrown into them, this being one of them. Now, admittedly, I did miss landing on the bull in the first, like, cycle or whatever here, but Varia bull here will randomly just spin and force you to do this little bit of a mashing thing while it tries to kick you off. And just will, you know, turn and whatever. You have to destroy all of these statues. Typically, you wouldn't be able to get one of the bird seeds until after this minigame, but the collection hitbox on both bird seeds and money extends pretty far, so I was able to just rub up against it early, and that let me just quit out and do the menu warp that you saw after the Elmer Fudd mission. And I'll be doing another one following this bull minigame, because otherwise you have to, like, walk across half the level. And I've already collected the money and collectibles. Like, the money would probably be respawned. They tend to refresh after you've done a mission. But it's not enough to really be worth it. So we get that, wait to be able to quit out, map screen, and there we go. Luckily, already gotten all the Sylvesters and all of the bird seeds, so no need to worry about losing any progress. However, we still don't have all of the statues, so I'll be going and collecting those last few here with no consequence, and because some other stuff is along the way, just the money really, since the rest of the levels collectibles are gone, might as well pick those up too. There's a fair chunk here. I need 3,000 for the next world. Did I say 19,000 is needed? Well, because it increases, the requirement increases by like 1,000 every time. So there, if I had been rolling, or like was able to swap over to Daffy, that little animation where he like pumps up his fist and it's like, you have enough money to go to the next world, do you want to do that now? You're able to skip that. It only saves a few seconds, but it does feel rewarding whenever you land it. This minigame, you're knocking goddamn TNT, bombs, whatever, back at the Elmer Fudd clones here in the painting. This was easily one of my favorite things to fuck around in as a kid. As far as the speedrun goes, it isn't so much a luck thing as you'd think, even though, like, there's these red ones that you can't knock back, and, like, I guess the spawns and the, their actions are random. Oh, also the screen wraps, so you can... There's a lot of, like, management of, like, whenever a wave of bombs come, you have to, like, weigh which ones are coming faster and everything, and also try to get the little bits of money, because it's free money, even though it's nickels, you know? It adds up. Anyways, Elmers can either stand around, shoot, or rush forward. And while they do kind of have patterns, but you're also looking at, like, 3 Elmers at a time, or whatever. And you can also aim the bombs to land on any of them from anywhere in the screen. So it's kind of a lot more based on paying attention and managing their animations mentally. Also, swag Daffy Walk for the win. Unfortunate bonk there. But just pick up a little bit of money before collecting the last monkey in the world. Also brings up a prompt similar to whenever you collect enough money to go to the next world, and just use that to save us a little bit of menuing. And we are already on to the third world, which is the casinos. Wooden Nickel, that's what it is. It's probably one of my favorite worlds, both casually and... Just because, like, maybe it's just because it's so bright and vibrant, and I don't know, I find the missions to be pretty fun. There I did the air attack. Air attack again, was able to catch the ledge inside there, and then maneuver over to here. Anyways, I leave bugs up there, so I can get the only, like, actually, like, Daffy exclusive, you have to destroy all these speakers to stop Yosemite Sam's advertising propaganda. We knocked the balloons out of Elmer Fudd to collect that bird seed, and then, just landed on those balloons, from up there, as opposed to having to follow the whole line, and then I just ground pounded in order to avoid having to, you know, because again, ground movement is always faster than, well, almost always faster than air movement. Basically, any scenario where you can move on the ground is better than moving in the air, you know, within reason. Like, if you're gonna be covering about the same amount of distance. Like, making 10 U-turns up some stairs, like winding stairs, rather than double jumping over them is, you know, clearly different. Anyways, that unlocks this. The costumes do add into the money routing. I admittedly don't know how much they add up to, but, you know, they do have a rental fee. They're only ever, like, 50 or 100 at a time, so it does, like, chip away. But admittedly, I just kind of have a general idea. The other reason behind that is because of this aspect of the casino. Another, arguably, RNG, which is just, you know, luck. For those uninitiated. I should have said so sooner. These slots can give you a coin, anvil, which just damages you, a stack of bills, or a gold bar. Oddly enough, though, it doesn't spawn more than, like, one gold bar at once on the screen, from what I found. Like, they do have a predictable, or semi-predictable pattern, these, slot machines. But actually waiting for them to roll around and strike, and because they're also in, like, groups, like, it tends to be better to just swing when you get to them. That may be altered in the future with some more testing or whatever, but yeah. Anyways, just doing a loop around here. Had to throw some explosive chickens. That's all. Got the Sylvester, bunch of money lingering around. I also did, well, here, before I say that, this minigame, is very odd. So the level kind of loads in segments. The first one's always the same, but then you have to react to these, Yosemite balloons coming up, which is why you'll see me, like, pause on occasion. I did miss a few there, but, the level kind of, like, loads differently based on your performance. And if you hit all of them, I've sometimes found that it won't load anything for a while, or if you miss two. But of course there I missed too many, and so it would punish me. So I hit a bomb to make the game slow down, or like the track slow down, and then it loaded bombs, or balloons in. Anyways, you hit them and you do the thing. So what I had done earlier here, that little, like, drop down to the center of the stage, typically from a very high fall, you will speed up until you reach free fall, but then, oddly enough, free fall actually is slower than your max falling speed, but then you end up taking damage and it's slow and you can't alter your angle or anything. What you can do is, before you reach free fall, is use your attack to cancel, and it will, like, lock your momentum. So not only do you avoid the slow free fall and taking damage and everything, but you end up, like, falling faster and being able to act out of it. So here, just timing some pounds to get little cluster of money, using that to that's spinning to give Bugs some momentum to reach that that 50 up there. We'll return to this part of the level later. It's kind of just acting as an intermission piece of sorts, but since it's right at that doorway, and I don't think we are ever around that doorway otherwise in the level, then, you know, pick up that there. So here's where that whole, like, 50s being more plentiful thing comes into matter. They also spawn way faster for whatever reason. Like both the gold and the anvil take a second to fall. Now of course you do like loop around to collect money you may have missed, but even still. Right there, using the attack again to prevent any falling damage. Ah, unfortunately caught by one of the guards here. They just brawl you and get a, you know, little mashing minigame there. It's weird whenever you're going around the level, because there's like a little visual and audio indicator for when you get gold or an anvil, but sometimes you don't know if you need to like go back and collect that, or if you should just keep going. Alright, so here, another monkey block. This one was failed, so being able to do a good backup for them is critical. So that wasn't too bad, because I normally have travel to this area anyway to pick up a few 50s. So, bullcrap happened there. If you try to jump, sometimes if you're on a bouncy object, or like you press A for too long, something weird like that, you, will just bounce on it, and Bugs can't swim, so he just died. The other thing about canceling your jumps with attacks is that it maintains the momentum from whatever previous action you were doing. So on that wall jump, which the opportunity to wall jump doesn't pop up in the game very often, there's just a few, but it sends you really quickly left or right, just for, I guess, simplicity's sake or whatever. I tried to cancel with that to keep going forward. What's nice about this level is that because of the slots, it doesn't matter much that... See, there's proof of the gold bars, by the way. Both of those hit gold and only one spawned. It's not like the slots do have a cooldown, but I hadn't struck that one before in the level, or at least not long enough. Not recently enough to prevent that.
Maybe we should catch a magic act while we're here. Or another one of Barbara's retirement shows.
Thanks to those slots, though, you can get a fair bit of money while you're going through the level. And so it's reasonable to, like, only get some of the, since, like, that room specifically, you take multiple trips through, you can do one part of it during one lap, and then another part during another lap. They're buffered switching characters, so that basically I skip that cutscene. It only saves a second, but really cool. It will happen again after this, this mission. Again, with these, like, costume rental and stuff, it's just forced requirements to, like, for certain cutscenes or triggers to be there. And, as far as we know, the other triggers or whatever, like, you can't just go over towards them and sequence break in that manner.
Good for you, Daffy. You're a champion. Take that. Twist his legs. Twist his arms.
Most of them are fairly straightforward and still decently fast, though, so
Tear him apart, Tiger.
it's not terrible. It's not like we've found monkeys stored out of bounds or anything, either. There is one level in the fourth world where there's some overlap in terms of the requirements of a level. So there is that, like, as far as messing with the flags and checks in the game. But otherwise, it doesn't really come up.
Looks like somebody's spoiling for a fight.
Oh, something else about the movement that's rather weird. Whenever you want to center the camera, not only do you have to stand still... Oh, also I paused there in order to just allow bugs to move for whatever reason. That cutscene just lets you do that. We think it's because the game intends you to be Daffy there because you just came out of the fight. But yeah. Anyways, when you recenter the camera, it actually, like, flips around. And by that, I mean, instead of doing, like, a gradual thing, it just snaps back into place. It's because you're just initiating, but not letting the, like, zoom in, look around animation play out. There isn't another way to, recenter the camera or anything. So that also can make, you know, just picking up the game for speedrunning a little odd and cumbersome. Here, just, an attempted bounce was done here because sometimes, you can, get sent over towards Elmer Fudd here, who has another set of balloons that we need to whack in order to, get to the next mission. Technically, you can Daffy boost up there, but it's way easier and faster to do it this way. And you get a handful of nickels, so that's some cool bonus. So this next world, we only need 4,000 for, but because of just such the high excess of money available in this level, it's better to get the money here rather than having to grind in the other level where money is less present. Because the money's just so much more, like, abundant and clustered together, it ends up being faster than collecting. Like, even though there is a fair bit of money in the fourth world, it doesn't compare to the casino, clearly. There I tried to roll, but oh, there's a little set of steps.
It makes a rabbit proud.
Anyway, got the 7 of bird seeds there, so gonna do another one of these. If you're curious as far as, like, picking up this speed run or anything, there is actually a little bit of a Discord formed around it. This is still a very young and upcoming speed game. I still think there's plenty of potential. Realistically, I even could have gotten sub 115 with these strats, but it just, like, requires so many things to go right. And I just already felt incredible about 115.44 here. Didn't really want to exhaust myself, because sometimes just, like, how much you have to handle at once, it's just very mentally draining, especially when you add on top of that my copy tends to crash randomly in the second to last world. So what we're coming up on here, so after almost an hour of play, and that can be just very devastating. because, like, going back on that, like, a very, I guess, mindful kind of run to do, the way my bunny route works, I only get 2 foghorn monkeys, so that's where Foghorn Leghorn's like the rooster, and he's kind of a smooth talker, slack jaw, kind of stereotype of sorts. Oh, again, using weird props to get up places early. This has a lot of odd collision to it, though. Like, I got caught on those bars a couple times, and then, like, yeah, the ledge itself then extends further, so actually making that is weird. There was another example of the roll being busted, because whenever you leave it, you're in a grounded state, even after you go off of, you know, go airborne. So if you just aren't pressing R, you can just jump out of it, no problem. It took me a bit to figure out why I would sometimes just, like, not be able to jump, and it was because of holding R, but besides that, it's basically free. And that works with both Bugs and Daffy, and can be used to great effect. It gets used in the 5th world later. This was the first world to actually include Michigans. Most other people thought that Michigans would be slowest, like the slowest set of monkeys, or slowest, yeah, the Michigan collectibles overall in the game would be the slowest set of monkeys. But as it turns out, because, like, so yes, there are 20 of them, but they're minor detours, and they give you more freedom in terms of when you collect them, and also being able to menu warp and everything. I did have a route where I got the World 3, so the casino, Michigans as well, but a handful of them are fairly out of the way, like, even just to get, one of them was like 30 seconds or something. So even though it was a pretty decent monkey to collect, it ended up just paling to a few other competitors. Namely, I believe I replaced I got the I get the birdseed monkey in this world. I think I added that in. This is what happened.
Sure, I'll give it a go.
So the reason to not swap there, or swap earlier, is because that cutscene that opens the door only plays when you enter the room after having completed that mission. Even though the loading zone is there, this stuff isn't all here, and it's important for, you know, actually getting the mission monkeys, so you're just using some minor little ledges, like, it looks like only a few inches or millimeters, even. But then you curve around that to get over the glass panes and everything, and Bugs can get up there. Similar thing there with, Daffy Boost. You can't be pushed too far in, otherwise you'll get stuck underneath that little additional ledge from the glass panes. Anyway, getting the last Sylvester here, but because of the distribution of the, what do you call them? These bird seeds. Most of them are actually in the second half of the level. Also, I randomly just got the glitch where your attack item just stays out from being interrupted at a certain time. so the way it ends up working is that I'm able to menu warp with all the Sylvesters, but then I end up collecting all of the bird seeds after the fact, which may seem weird because I already have 3 of them. But the final level, so basically this trick here, you're supposed to do a racing minigame with these Martians, but instead, this, which is actually the final level, is always, the load zone is always open. It just requires that you get in and press the buttons with both characters.
Nobody messes with my good buddy. Or Daffy.
And oddly, and just because of like how high the dome is and everything, it seems so improbable that you would ever be able to get in there. But by Daffy boosting, of course, it is weird with the dome, but because it's like a bunch of, I guess, polygons, kind of like, it kind of reminds me of a hive now that I think about it. But because it's a bunch of, you know, different faces of glass, you can boost up it. Here you just try to keep Daffy from dying from the hordes of Martians. Problem is he's very he's far too daring. Practically suicidal even. He'll run into them, into groups of them, even though there's no money. So I have been doing a safer strat there rather than just like continually killing them all at once, because that puts too much money and then it's hard to read where he's going to go. You only lose out a small bit, and because of the luxury of only getting 2 compared to 3 money based monkeys, like, so the route previously had 3 of the foghorn monkeys where you trade the money in. Also another monkey block, and being in this 2D section, getting over those that fire, using the attack cancel is very good, because it also pushes you up slightly, and you don't have to use the double jump. You can cancel out of the double jump though with the attack, but all of your forward momentum, or most of it, comes from your single jump, so it's better to do it that way. Anyways, the foghorn monkeys that you trade in money for, they also progressively get, you know, higher quantities of money you need to trade in. Oh, this is actually a pretty high skill ceiling section, because there's a lot of working parts. You have to get, I think, like, there's 4 bird seeds, and there's, like, also 4 or 5, statues, and that you have to make sure to hit these, test tubes. You're supposed to get a suit, and rent it, but it actually prevents you from, like, destroying stuff unless you're shooting it. But at the same time, you can get body blocked, trying to, like, you can't kill the Martians that are spawning. You have to, like, roll into and kind of, like, around them to, like, just push them aside, basically. And you only get 3 hits of health, but anyways, that ended up being pretty smooth, as you can tell with that gold split here. I stay a little bit pushed away there so that I don't end up getting caught in the little indent. I go around here to collect a bird seed and money again, because I need 5,000 for the next world. And then, because I come in here a second time, I can just not have to worry about having missed that statue earlier. You could go in and do that mission again, I just hate it. That's another one that could potentially be routed in. Problem is, you aren't really getting any monkeys. Like, it's not a mission where you can work on other monkeys at the same time. So even though, like, it may be just like a 2 minute rather than a 2 minute 30 monkey, for example, with the average or goal being the 2 minute 30, a bunch of the monkeys that are in the route are like 2 minute monkeys where you're already collecting other stuff. So, yeah. I was also very fortunate to not fall off the platform there. These get like exponentially faster the closer to the edge you get on them. You know, they just go in whichever direction that you're walking or standing, you know, based on the arrows there. If I rolled off there, I would have canceled the animation. Also, that robot was a dick. I've never seen that before. If it doesn't have, if you bounce on something and it doesn't have like another target, it just like kind of bounces you in place until you fall off. Just collect some extra money here for security and safety. Because even though I have enough for the to enter the final world, we aren't done with our money requirements. Yes, there are still the rentals, but those are pretty minor. The main thing to still consider is the foghorn monkeys that I've been talking about for the last like 10 minutes now, I feel like. There's gonna be like a little bit of cleanup section before entering the final level. That goes back and collects those. That just allows you to be easier on your requirements. It gives you more freedom in terms of like what money pickups you can miss or choose from, because you know you have the luck element with money in the casinos. You may want to skip over some segments or collect more clusters of money based on how that goes. Luckily in this run, they seem to be pretty solid. Lots of 50s were picked up, as well as a healthy dose of gold bars. So, you know. But nonetheless, like, especially in World 1, like, the World 1, you need 2,000 to go to the next world, and, like, you can just go and buy the monkey in that world there. It's only 1,000. But then you need to get 1,000 only within World 1. And so now you can see maybe what I'm trying to say as far as, like, not having to fret about your other requirements. You can just return whenever you've gotten to the later levels that are more plentiful in pickups.
Hooray! I'm rich. For some reason. What's the matter, Dad? You ain't scared of those
And, yeah.
The only one who can hop bug thief. Here comes the B team.
So the reason for that... Oh, this is a particularly hard monkey block, somewhat. Until I realized you could just wall jump, and that just, like, it's set at the proper height. It's a 2D section, but it still, like, takes your inputs as if it's a 3D space, because you can, like, be facing towards the screen rather than just going left or right. But I guess with the addition of wall jumps, that keeps you from having to, like,
And where's the rest of your body?
aim towards,
Here comes the B team.
you know, like,
Hogging the glory.
it keeps you aligned with how the level's meant to be played, I guess. I don't know if that was, like, part of the design philosophy or what.
Here comes the Goon Squad.
So there I did another menu warp, as opposed to having to climb this massive tower thing. It just puts me right next to the mission. I just send Daffy in on his own little mission, having to roll off and do that jump thing I was talking about. Just gets that Sylvester. I mean, obviously that's the slowest Sylvester in the game, but it does offer you know, a nice little skip. You have to mash in order to get your distance there. And the other thing about fluttering is that as soon as you start fluttering, it actually like caps your height, so you instantly start going downwards. So there's some tech to that, because you can keep yourself closer to the ground and still get like, you know, better distance out of your jump. I used that whenever I was going around the ring of floating platforms in the Paris level, actually. This is my least favorite mission because timing these throws is a bitch. But even though that some of these throws really didn't seem like they made it, it was fine. Also, these spawns are random and they run really fast, and yeah. Really cutting it close with some of them, like hitting them as they're turning.
Am I the only guy who thinks this is weird?
Like that. Why did that hit, dude? Considering how much of a detour I had to make for Daffy to get that Tweety Bird location, you can see just how like obviously superior they are to a lot of the other monkeys in the game. That was an accidental ground pound. It's the same button used for rolling, so unfortunate. Same principle there, just with bugs. As opposed to having Daffy travel across the whole coastline or bridge or whatever. I don't know. Or having to bring you back to the checkpoint. So now, here we have to save oh, yeah, there's a crappy death here. This was one of the other main time saves. This, the bowl, that death I had doing the tower climb in the first world. That right there was where you can see the early flutters coming into better effect, because you convert your jump to more forward momentum, as opposed to like Daffy's initial jump is more up of an upwards trajectory, whereas Bugs' is more of a forwards trajectory, to compensate for the fact that he doesn't have a double jump, somewhat, and because you can just flutter. So that's why that was important. Anyways, this game really did keep everything of Looney Tunes. We've got hungry tribesmen trying to boil other Looney Tunes characters, so we have to go and keep them from being cooked. So a little bit of a Daffy boost there. Skip tons of the maze, because you're only supposed to get to the upper area at the end of it. But by going around that little section. That switch dropped some money that may or may not be fast based on the cycle of that there. Again, just like various money pickups that you can consider throwing into your run based on your current situation.
And this monkey is for you. I found a little scamp in the powder room.
Alright, and Sylvester, and we won't be seeing the statues or birdseed if that wasn't abundantly clear enough. I did collect a birdseed earlier, but that was just because it was like along the way of the first Sylvester location. The rest of these aren't. You really have to go out of your way for them. Like in the final level, they're kind of like surrounding the... There's like this big lake, and you have to go around that, and then you'd have to quit out and then play those levels, or like at least for the birdseed you would. So you'd have to complete the level halfway. You'd have to complete the level twice altogether, because you have to reach the door with 35 monkeys.
Hey, a nickel.
There, that is my favorite little meme in the game. There's also one-liners. I didn't get to talk about the amazing one-liners there. Yeah, so they kind of stack in a queue. Like, each one-liner has to play out entirely. So, like, a one-liner, you know, it's just like a little catchphrase or, you know, audio clip meant to, you know, encapsulate that character's personality and whatever. But each one has to play out fully, and then it plays whatever the next one would be based on. Like, see, picking up nickels sometimes will have you say, hey, a nickel, you know, in a series of events like that. Oddly, in that scenario, it's very rare, but you can have Bugs Bunny be like, hold on, Daff, I'm coming. Hey, a nickel. Because when you leave that, the spawn point there puts you actually inside of a nickel. And that actually happened in this run, so I'm okay with that being the good luck that I get rather than the bull. Honestly, because that's just so hilarious to me. Screw Daffy and saving him in boiling pot. Oh yeah, this Rapids level is very weird. I feel like you can probably get to him sooner. I don't really know, like, there's some paths that you can take that put you marginally ahead, but it just seems like don't get bumped. I don't know. That's the minigame that needs more optimization, honestly. But nonetheless, it's a fairly fast mission either way. Quite fast, actually. Speaking of other random potential occurrences that don't really affect gameplay at all, I'm pretty sure another one occurs during this backtracking section.
Did you ever get the feeling you was being rendered?
Did you ever get the feeling you were being rendered? And Daffy points to the sky, punctuating the point.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So there isn't any other mission that, like, sets you closer to Foghorn, so you do have to watch that cutscene. But it also then means that this is essentially free money that can be counted into the route
I'm a lot better at digging than you are.
when coming back. We're needing 25 because this is a $1,000 monkey, and then the other is 1,500 in Paris. So skipping the dialogue, then just going to main menu since we've already got our money pickups and the monkey.
Coffee and carrot break. Quit hogging the
Let's see how close I was here. Yeah, so that I literally only had 30 more than was necessary for the run. So that was just random little nickels and everything. So depending on like how much of a margin you have there, you can kind of tell like how good you were as far as keeping track of how much money you had and how much you needed. Now, I mean, there could still be some questions to be made about which money pickups I got, like if I got the fastest money pickups. But in terms of, you know, overall money total precision, it doesn't get much better than that. And then this is just the last Fast and Furious. That's the name of this minigame. I leave it over because, I just kind of stagger these throughout the run. There's one in the beginning, and then I skip the one for World 2, do the one for World 3, because it saves you a map movement, do the one for World 4, and then, this one comes back around. It just keeps it so that it's not, like, eating up, like, 8 minutes of gameplay in a row. Because I feel like that would be rather, boring and distracting for viewers. Well, it's boring, and, distracting perhaps for the runner as well, you know? Because, like, it just disengages you, because you're, like, forced to switch to entirely different mode that, like, even though, like, it's an auto-scroller, you have to be very mindful because the cars spawn randomly, going at different angles and different speeds. Anyways, loop back around, and we're going to do our final monkey to meet the, 35 requirement.
Every little bit helps. If I don't get a carrot soon, I'm gonna
So at this
start
point,
giving
there's
away
just a 50 for a costume rental, and that is the last
Don't be
use
so pushy,
of money
Daph. We can't
in the
stop
run.
now. Don't be so pushy, Daph. We can't.
So this level just already wants you to utilize the swapping mechanics a lot. Typically, you would just have Daffy land on these, but because they are in a set pattern, by very carefully not losing your momentum whenever you jump off of them, you can do that. Okay. I was going to point out a thing about how you can if you ledge grab, you can charge up a jump and do a higher jump than is typically possible, which includes with Daffy, you can get like a triple jump's worth of height or whatever, but I didn't do it in this run. That's something I only very recently found out. It's also very, what do you call it? Obscure and not useful. Taz Flight, though, is fucking bonkers. So, this is probably the most wild glitch in the game. It's kind of a shame that it can't be utilized more, at least as far as we know. So, in this mission, you just spin around as Taz and eat people. But what is crazy, besides that, you're eating tribal people to get revenge, is that Taz himself is sort of like this separate entity that isn't exactly a playable character, but he has his own moveset or whatever. So by rolling into him at a certain point, you can like have the game switch to Taz, but you'll still be rolling. And so that will allow you to maintain both the speed and the moveset of Daffy, but kind of like paste it onto Taz's character. And so what that allows is, well, it means you can jump. Typically as Taz, you can't jump. However, because typically as Taz, you can't jump, when the game sees that you've jumped, it's like, wait a second, Taz is supposed to always be grounded. So it switches you back to a grounded state, but then you can jump again. And so because of that, Taz can basically jump infinitely if it wasn't for the hunger meter. And so you can go up to that checkpoint, carefully avoid the cutscene trigger that is around the front side of the door. That's why I go to the right side of the mailbox. Use the melee attack that is also courtesy of Daffy's moveset, not on Taz's moveset. And there I have to wait for the flame anyway, so technically you could probably save a second there, but I just run forward because it's a tight little spot and like, I don't know. Anyways, final bit here. There's a bunch of little ledges here that curve up, and there, you can ledge grab that, and if you're careful to not do the extremely slow get up, you can just jump up there, as opposed to having to wait for the platform cycle. Very awesome little addition. That was one of the most recent little skips of sorts that I found. And then finally here, this is also a pretty skilled minigame. Basically, it's just like Punch Out, but you're trying to kill a stone monkey diamond guardian to save the world as a pterodactyl-like Tweety bird. So anytime he like shows his body, you can hit with either the left or right. You need to hit him 11 times and then use the POW to knock him off, basically. Because otherwise you wait through an animation where he gets back up. That takes a few seconds. You can hit him up to 3 times each time that you punish him. You can technically hit more, but it's actually like chaining of like each time he's vulnerable. So there's a pretty high skill to it. Also, like here, that's the animation, but luckily he's left vulnerable after the fact, so you can do a quick follow-up hit. Because you can just try to guess, like, which punch would be, like, good to see, like, whenever he's just standing there like that, you can hit him, but it's a much smaller window than when he goes to wind up a punch, so that's where the skill comes in. Anyways, you skip that final cutscene, and that is time. Just see what I had said about it during the run. Pog Champion! Oh, lads. For a revenge run that does not get much better than that. I got all the good luck with the the one-liner memes that I was looking for. So that's mainly all I care for. Oh my god. Well, obviously the execution was sick. I finally figured out why I would fail the jump to Tweety in the jungle. Like, whenever you roll off of a surface and it treats you in the grounded state, if you're still pressing a direction, or not a direction, if you're still holding roll or trying to press R, or like, basically you can have other inputs interfere with you getting off the jump, and so you have to be sure that you're like just purely doing the jump itself. You still have to, like, you can't just be holding neutral though. It's a little weird. But I got that first try, and that's why the fat gold split on Yum Yums, because I really, really hate that section, and the throws to the targets are odd and hard to time, and the Yum Yums themselves, when they spawn, are awful. Just really solid performance all the way through. Some nice luck, mainly with everything except the bowl. Perhaps with that, and maybe it is possible that the third foghorn monkey is still worth considering. But yeah, fucking amazing little run. I'll leave my future self to commentate this. It looks like I didn't really drop any frames during the stream, and even if not, I did record this time, so alrighty. Pretty sure the rest of that is just me saying about like the run. I'm pretty sure my sum of best are itself off. Oh, yeah, this is suggesting almost a sub 110 being possible. That is a far cry from happening. There is a fair bit of RNG in the game, though, so, you know, there's like a lot of minor variants to movement and routing based on your current money situation, which you have to react to. So, okay, glad I actually basically some of best segments is not always the most reliable thing, but it did seem like most of the gold splits in this run were based on movement and performance-based thing, though I was given a bit of leeway due to the good luck in the casinos. Alrighty. Yeah, so yeah, there's only the last like 10 seconds or whatever of the recording there. Yeah, like past me was saying there, some of best not exactly applicable there, but as far as those minutia in movement and routing and everything, very much present. The money pickups, everything, like the game lends itself to a surprisingly decent skill ceiling. It's not the highest thing in the world, mind you, because the actions per minute and all that, you know, the actual, like, platforming complexity and all that isn't nearly as there as it is with some other speed games. But as far as, like, game knowledge and, I guess, active participation in, you know, like, having to route out as your run goes along, I feel like that is a very unique prospect that it has. And, you know, like I said, I mean, sub 115, certainly doable. The game is still incredibly young. I've even got some theories for possibly skipping the door. It's the door meaning the 35 monkey door. It's quite possible. I mean, we have plenty of other things that just let you, the load zones are there for, like, everything except for that final door. So, you know, it's quite possible that an entire other category, can exist for the game. If such a thing were to be found. Nonetheless, though, I do thank you for sticking around and considering this silly little game for your eyeballs as a potential speed game or anything. Regardless of what you do with this, I just hope you enjoyed the showcasing and, you know, hopefully it gave you a little bit of thinker or a relax, insight, you know? Anything of that sort. And good luck in your life in 2021 and beyond. It's gonna be it for me in regards to this run. But you can feel free to ask me any questions about it, either through twitch.tv/epicness, oh yeah. You can go on speedrun.com to find, under Looney Tunes Back in Action, of course, to find our Discord. And you can also message me on Discord, which I believe I do have tied to my speedrun.com account. So it's either on there or you can find it through the Looney Tunes Back in Action Discord itself. Alright. Anyhow, it's been solid. Y'all take good care now.